Well, hello, my friends, and welcome back to the cabin. Today is January 17th, 2019. It's a chilly 2 degrees, and we'll have 9 hours and 24 minutes of daylight on the mountain today. That's 26 minutes more than we had at the time of my last posting. Did you hear what I said, folks? I said 26 minutes more. Ha! The days are getting longer, and it's making a noticeable difference already. This is the Cabin Life Journals, episode number 18, titled Hippies and a Hero. Living at the camp spurs a lot of memories. Countless reflections of all those wonderful times spent up here during my childhood. Except for some heavy logging and our road being upgraded, the area hasn't changed much over the years. This was a wild place back then, and it still is. In fact, there's less camps here now than when I was a boy. The Johnson's place collapsed when I was very young. Hank's place disappeared when I was a teen, and the Gilmain's place is gone now too. The Barber's camp still stands, but it's not used anymore. It's not cared for either, and it's sad to see it standing there in such disrepair. It was a beautiful place that stood proud back in the day. It carried a sign on the front gable that read, "Our Gay Abode." It was hung there when gay meant happy, but taken down when it meant otherwise. Funny how translations change over the years. The Cold Spring camp still stands, but it's rarely used. I hear it's going up for sale, and I can't help but wonder what the future holds for that old place. Back in the 60s and 70s, a lot of shenanigans went on at that camp. Shenanigans of all kinds, don't you know? I remember one time when I was a boy. We were on our way up here to the camp, and there were cars parked on both sides of the road by the Cold Spring place, with barely enough room for us to pass between them. There was a party going on, with a generator running and music playing, a bonfire burning, and people everywhere. Hippies, Dad called them. I saw motorcycles and people drinking, an animal rotating over a half drum of burning coals, and a woman with no pants on. No underwear either. It was the first time I ever saw of such things, but I didn't get to see it for long because my sister covered my eyes and pulled me away from the window I had been gawking through. She told my dad to drive on, which he did, while rubbernecking and waving to the hippies as we passed by. Those were some shenanigans, I'll tell you what. Now, we came up to the camp nearly every weekend during the summer, and we didn't travel light. No, sir. Our 1960 Pontiac Catalina would be loaded to the roof and beyond, and I say that without exaggeration. Mom and Dad in the front seat with the dog between them, and my brother and I in the back with a cooler on the seat between us. The rest of the must-haves were crammed in the cargo section in the rear of the old wagon. Certain articles that wouldn't fit in the car would be placed on the roof, and a rowboat was placed upside down over the top to keep the gear secure and make us more aerodynamic. The dirt bike came along too, strapped to the back of the wagon, riding high on the bumper and Dad's homemade bike-toting contraption. You can't say we were getting away from it all because we brought it all with us. Now, since we came up often, we had a routine. No, we had it down to a science. The car was packed on Thursday, so when my dad got out of work on Friday, all we had to do was load up the coolers and hit the road. On the way up, we'd stop at Hayward's for an ice cream or Alberto's for a pizza, but there were occasions that we'd try a different place along the way. I remember once when we stopped at a little Italian place to get subs, but they were called grinders back then. They offered 3-foot-long grinders, and my brother wanted one. I can remember this like it was yesterday, and it still makes me chuckle a bit. Still cracks me up, actually. Mom and Dad each had a pepper steak. I had an Italian, but my brother wanted a meatball grinder, a 3-foot-long one. He looked silly just carrying it, never mind when he was trying to stuff it into his pie hole. Now, John is 5 years older than me, so he was a teenager at the time, with an appetite to match. We got back on the road as soon as Dad finished eating. We have a long ways to go, and when we arrive at the camp, it's just not fun and games. We have a routine to follow there, too. We unpack the car, fetch water from the well, empty the mouse traps, light the gas fridge, and so on. There's chores to do when we arrive, so no time to waste. Back on the road we went, regardless if John still had 16 inches of sandwich in front of him. Sandwich, sub, grinder, hoagie, or hero, call it what you want. He was gobbling it up, and he finished it. He sunk the sub. That grinder was ground down, and I was lost in admiration for a bit. Anybody that can pack away that much food in one sitting should be recognized. They say you are what you eat, and John just became my hero. But he didn't stay there for long. Now the route we took was a twisty-turny two-lane that brought us over hill and dale like a ride on a roller coaster. And when you're overstuffed in an overstuffed station wagon, well, make sure you've got a window seat. Bro wasn't looking so good. Kinda peaked, actually. I said, John's gonna be sick, and sick he was. With both elbows out the window, he hurled, and meatballs were bouncing off the guardrails as we sped along Route 31. We must have been a sight to see, I'll tell you what. Boat on top, bike on the back, and a meatball hero launching out the side. Now, I don't know why I find such things so amusing, but I do, and I guess that's just the way we look at things here in my neck of the woods.